Hello, and welcome to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. This 5th edition D&D adventure, The Heretic, was written and run by your DM, Scott. And now, please enjoy episode 484, titled, Are We the Equivalent of a Jedi? Actual play begins immediately.
Hello, this is Scott, your Dungeon Master for this D&D 5e adventure, The Heretic. With me tonight are...
I am Tom. I'm playing Alder Rusha. He is a human male cleric of Amira and a new skill-seeking rogue.
I'm Mike, playing Marduk, a male half-orc fighter, graduate of the Academy, and new Fist of Amira.
I am Jim, playing Grodor, a hobgoblin warlock and one of the soggy wet fists of Amira, always searching for truth knowledge, and at this moment, Owen.
I'm John, playing Melody, a female human cleric, third of the exemplar family Harmony, ex-ambassador turned political operative.
I'm Thomas. I'm playing Gabrielle DeAngelis. She's a female human paladin and Holy Fist of Amira on a mission to the Hololines.
Where last we left off,
I'm at minus 9.
bring you closer to death.
Gotcha.
That takes us to Donald, who I'm going to go ahead and make a wisdom check. He rolled a 15. Your words got through to him, Gabrielle. He drops his longsword, picks up the mace, steadies himself, wraps 2 hands around it, and just trying to come straight down on the skull of the goat creature.
Nice roll.
He rolled a 15, plus 4 is a 19, which is a hit. The mace does, someone fill me in real quick, does it do die 8?
Die 8 plus...
Plus his strength bonus, right?
Yeah.
Might be a fine weapon. Just giving it a +1 or whatever. I don't know what's up.
It was, actually. Gave it a +1 as well. It's magical. So he does a total of 7 damage to the creature as his weapon crashes down onto its skull. A big hunk of flesh slides down the side of its face. It's definitely wounded right now, and definitely worse for wear. Go ahead and take your turn, Gabrielle.
I finished the last 5 feet of movement towards Grodor, which means this swarm of ravens takes one more whack at me.
Yes, it does. The unkindness rolls a 5, plus 4 is 9. Once again, not able to penetrate the chain shirt and chain leggings that you're wearing. You're protected, and they haven't figured out to go for your head yet, so it's working for you.
And lays a hand on Grodor to... You said 15 HP?
He needs to go to negative 15 in order to die. He's at negative 9 right now, but when you heal him, we're going to treat it as a 0, just like we would normally. He's unconscious.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to penalize you on healing with his minuses. His minuses are just me keeping track of his closeness to death.
I was just trying to figure out how much healing I should try to drop on him.
Yeah, it's his
I
total
could
hit points
spend
are
a
15.
spell slot, but I'll heal a lot less than I will if I just heal you with lay on hands. So, for simplicity's sake, she'll use that and drop 12 healing into Grodor real quick.
Okay, you want to describe it?
Yeah, she lays her hands upon him, and then they glow with a holy white light, and his wounds seem to knit back together, dragging him back up to positive 12 HP.
Excellent.
And then I have 5 movement, where I'll get behind Marduk to try lend a hand in this combat against the big demon beast who's running these swarms. Because I think Mel's got the child handled.
Devil beast, but, just to be
Devil
clear,
beast.
demon. Right.
My mistake.
No bad. No problem. Okay, so that is Gabrielle's turn. Marduk, half its face is kind of slid away from the mace damage that young Donald inflicted upon it with his double-fisted crashing down upon its skull. What do you do next?
I tell it to go back to the hell that spawned it, and I plunge the spear back into the other side of its face.
All right.
And with advantage, I just can't get over. I roll a 23.
Yes, that finds its purchase,
Through the hits.
embedding itself deeply, like it was howling in pain from Donald's attack. You literally thrust your spear into its mouth, and through its mouth into the back of its neck. And what's your damage?
A total of 11 piercing.
You hear one final scream, and then it just starts to unravel into this deep crimson red, swirling energy, almost like a small tornado, but it flows through its arms and through its legs and through its head, and it's just 5 different swirls or curls of this shimmering light, this crimson light, as it just disincorporates and goes back to the hell that spawned it. At this point, the ravens take to the sky, and they go back towards their perches in the trees. The battlefield falls quiet.
The ravens like, what? What's wrong? Everything's fine.
Right. We didn't just try to kill a bunch of people. You hear Brother Byron entering the clearing, and with him is Merrick, outfitted in armor, well, leathers, and he has a crossbow that he's carrying in his arm, and they come moving towards you in the clearing to where the battle just ended. What does everyone want to do at this point?
You said
I glance at Marduk and I roll my eyes like, yeah, good timing.
You said that this goat demon had bled black ichor all over the ground. Do we need to burn or sear the ground at all? I'm not sure what to do right now.
That's a great question. What it did was when it hit the ground, it kind of lost its substance. It got taken into the earth as it seared it and caused little bits of smoke to appear. So you don't have to worry too much about it.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if killing a demon here is going to cause problems in this wood, so...
We're going to have to call Hazmat.
Right. Talk to the elves, because I just did what I had to do.
I just hold out both hands to Donald and Marduk and shake their hands, both at the same time. Well done, gentlemen. That was an incredible beast to fight.
Donald grabs your wrist quickly, but you can see that his eyes are kept flitting towards the building.
I kind of pull him past it towards the building. Check your brother.
Yeah, that's what he's looking at, actually. He was looking towards the building once the beast went down. So he then runs to the building and sees his brother regaining consciousness in the corner. He looks down at his brother and sees that he's conscious but bloodied and says, "Owen, are you all right?" Owen nods his head slowly and painfully. Donald then, like, his expression almost changes. And he says, "Owen, what have you done?" And I wouldn't say he's berating him. He's shocked, and he saw what everybody else saw. He's confronting his brother. He says, "That is a beast from the 9 hells. What has gotten into you?" He's just almost like he's caught up in the emotion of the moment. He's flabbergasted at what's occurred and what his little brother did. And his brother is trying to speak, but he can't speak over Donald haranguing him over what's just occurred.
I'm going to push him back because I'm over his brother at the moment. I hadn't time to separate before he came running over here.
I was just going to suggest to Alder that someone should neutralize that ritual circle or examine it or check it or break the lines. We don't want to...
I think the lines were broken already, but let's have Grodor check it.
Thank you.
I go over and check on Grodor. Are you okay?
I'm over there thanking Gabrielle for saving my life. I owe you one. I'm sure we owe each other lots.
She's still there, kind of helping you up from that position, I think, is what Gabrielle would do. So you thank her, and at this point, Alder walks over and asks you if you're all right, and to check into that ritual circle. What is it, and what is this current condition, and can something else get summoned, or whatever the case might be.
If I slip in there, is there anything unusual besides just a typical ritual circle?
Go ahead and make an Arcana check, please.
I'm rolling with advantage because I don't know if I should or not, but I did.
No, but
my first roll was a
6. You know that a lot of times arcane circles are very specific to their purpose. You don't know a lot about this one. You haven't seen them before, but it looks to be something from the conjuration school. You don't know much more besides that, though.
I come in and I say, your best bet is to ask the smart young wizard who made this. And then I'm asking Owen, I'm like, oh, this is pretty impressive. This is a lot of advanced stuff. You should be doing this with a tutor or someone who's more experienced at doing some magic like this. But I'm pretty impressed that you actually pulled something like this off.
For those of you who practice magic, I guess as a quick aside here, summoning a devil from the 9 hells, that's pretty potent magic. And this little kid is, 12 years old? It's stunning to those of you who have gone through training and who have practiced magic, whether it be divine magic or whether it be arcane magic. Not too many 12-year-olds are practicing summoning rituals for powerful devils. So you would be definitely, much like Brodor just mentioned, you would definitely be taken aback. Switching gears just for a second, Melody, you stand up from your position and you're kind of eye to eye with Donald, who is haranguing his brother and saying, what have you done? That's evil magic. You can't just summon devils to, what are you thinking? He's just caught in this loop of anger and shock and is just absolutely stunned. If you want to try something, you can, as far as talking. But right now you've just stood up over him. What are you doing? He doesn't look violent at all. He just looks angry.
No, yeah, but this kid needs time to rest. I don't know how tall Donald is, but
about average height. He's not,
Melody's
5'8",
actually
5'7".
pretty tall from the Orcish blood in their family.
Mm-hmm.
She isn't pushing him, but gets up in his face and says, your brother almost died. Give him a break here. We can discuss this morality and mistakes later, but this isn't the time.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check.
Sure. Straight 10. But he's going to roll stubbornness.
He looks at you for a second and is like, he broke the laws of the land. It's punishable by death. It's completely unacceptable. What have you done, Owen? And he starts talking to him again, but he's backed up a step when you got up. But he just seems distraught. Merrick and Brother Byron, at this point, are in with the same group. They're standing outside of the fallen down, collapsed home. They're just listening to Donald talk to his brother. And
Marduk speaks to Alder. This does not feel right to me. He seems too young to have the knowledge or the strength or the will to summon devils.
I had a conversation with him earlier, and I do want to talk to him again. I start walking closer to Owen, but I take a slight detour in that I walk towards the tree where the ravens are, and I just do a quick cantrip of a thaumaturgy, in which I do a very loud hawk noise, which is the natural prey for ravens.
right.
Because I just want to see them fly away.
Oh, they fly away.
I just want to get out of here.
Right. They're startled and they fly away.
And then I walk over and place my hand on Donald's shoulder and I said, relax, give me a moment. I spoke with your brother earlier. I want to talk to him now.
At the far end of the clearing, a large armored Guy Ledstrom, the exemplar of Topshire, comes striding into the clearing. Having heard the alarm and being on watch, he's finally made his way to the clearing. And he starts to come up and shouts through the clearing, Merrick, give me an update. Is everyone okay? You go ahead and make a persuasion check, Alder, against Donald, because he's still absolutely dumbfounded. As you all know, growing up in Amira, devils equal your enemy. The lawgivers, it equals Asmodeus, one of the rune lords of the prior ages. It's everything that's anathema to your way of life and who you are. So you can understand at least a little bit where Donald's coming from.
Oh, definitely.
I just wanted to make sure you were aware of how egregious this was.
Yeah, I absolutely do, yes.
We haven't talked about this particular part of the country and the laws. So go ahead, make your roll, please.
I rolled a 22.
Ooh, nice.
Okay. He looks at you, nods his head, takes a deep breath, and under his breath, it's like, I'm just glad he's okay, but...
Yes, we need to know more. I understand that, but give me a moment.
Okay, you have a moment.
Marduk, what were you going to say? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, no problem. I apologize. I turned to Gabrielle, and I asked her, do you sense any other evil or any other infernal presence here? Have we banished the only thing here, or do you still sense that there may be something danger around?
That's fair. I'll check one more time. I've got one more divine sense to check.
I'm kind of hoping that maybe you might sense or reveal. I suspect the boy was bait or a puppet.
All right, I'm allowed to check within 60 feet of me for a presence of evil or...
While you're doing that, I'm going to check to see if this kid's got any magic on him.
It also finds any land that's been desecrated or made hallowed.
Okay, so both you and Grodor cast your spells. You both detect inside the home, just to the right of the front door, there's a strong emanation of magic and evil.
Well, there you go. Go searching, I guess.
Yeah, I kneel down, one knee, and I'm speaking to Owen.
Right. He still looks kind of stunned. He took a lot of damage. He's still shocked and stunned. So his eyes sometimes blur a bit, and then they focus back again. And then after a little while, he blurs again, and then focuses again. So just know that he's not completely 100% there. And he keeps whispering under his breath, I just wanted to protect my family. I just wanted to keep everyone safe.
Owen.
Yeah.
Owen, look at me. Look at my eyes.
He focuses.
We spoke earlier tonight. You said you were having night terrors. Is this part of it? Is there something that's going on here? Why did you make these decisions that you did? Why did you make a bargain with a creature like that? I heard the two of you discussing it. I heard the fact that he lied to you, but what were you trying to get him to do?
I look at him, I go, save your brother, right? Keep him safe.
I was scared about the war, about my brother going off to war and the war coming and hurting my family, my dad and my brother. And I found an old book in a hidden nook in this house. And
I glanced at both Grodor and Gabrielle because I know that they're the ones that do the magical radar. Strangely, look, there's Gabrielle kind of poking in the corner at stuff.
Yeah, and we're both looking in this corner like this.
Yeah. The magic helps illuminate it. It would have been difficult to find, but there's a loose stone. Both of you kind of pull the stone away. It's maybe the size of, just bigger than a human's fist. You pull it away, and there's almost like a portfolio. It's rolled up, and it looks like it's some kind of parchment paper or part of a book, and it's stashed in there in the nook, protected from the rain and the elements. I'm going to assume that one of you is pulling it out.
I'll pull it out. Take a look at it.
Grodor.
Okay.
Owen, I hold out my hand. Stand up.
Make a persuasion check with advantage.
I rolled a 15.
He had his arms wrapped around his knees, and he was just kind of shaking because, again, it's going to be like 60 degrees and raining and kind of chilly. For your country anyways, your country is pretty temperate, but it's a little bit of a chilly night. And he was just holding his arms around his knees and shaking a little bit, and he reaches one hand out tentatively to yours.
I pull him to his feet, and I said, you've been messing with some very, very powerful magic here and some very, very evil creatures. You need to be you. You need to be strong here and fight off. And you also need to take a bit of a punishment for what happened here. You've made some bad decisions that ended up with people dying. You have to take that. You have to own it. Is his dad here?
Guy, no, his dad is not here. Guy, the exemplar, clears his throat and says, yes, there will be punishment for this. I am the Archon of the town as well as the exemplar. And you all know that Archons are the judges of a town who mete out punishment. Guy is looking very gravely down at the young boy.
But I want you to understand something, Guy. We are the Fist of Amera, and it is our job to find facts and what's really going on here. And I understand you're the judge that gets to decide what happens, but we're going to provide you with all the information of why it happened. I look towards Grodor and say, what'd you guys find?
I said, there's some old magic hidden in the walls of this thing.
Yes, it is, by your estimation, make an investigation check, Grodor.
I got an investigation of 13.
You're fairly certain that these documents are at least a century old. It looks like part of what was once a spell book. Not a spell book in like just formulas, but a spell book as in drawings and notations in the margins, and obviously wizardly formula as well.
Like a spell notebook.
Or a grimoire.
Yeah, exactly.
Grimoire.
Grimoire is a good description. He somehow, as a 12-year-old, read this and was able to duplicate. You see where it's written, there's notes on the protective circle that the summoner must use to remain safe. And keys to bargaining, like different terms of phrases and how to make sure that you don't get tricked into a different bargain than you are hoping for with the goat devil. So there's a whole description of basically he found a spell kind of hidden away and decided seemingly to use it to try to protect his family is the best you can come up with.
And I tell Guy that this boy was trying to do good but did not understand the tools he was using to try to do that, and then what he summoned lied to him and tricked him. His intention was not to hurt, and he is a very talented young child, and if he learns from this, he can be a very, very valuable resource to people as he gets older.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check with advantage. One of Guy's personality traits you just spoke to without realizing it.
I got a 21. 19 plus 2.
He nods slowly and says, your defense is noted. Being the Archon, I'm giving my judgment now. Owen will be taken to the Academy in Temerity, where he will be trained as a prodigious young magic user in how to best help his country in the coming war. With that, Donald breathes in sharply and says, I'm going with him. I'll volunteer for the watch in Temerity. I'm going with him.
Donald, I have people I know, and I can write you a note that'll help you once you get there. Just make sure you give it to Regalian Silverstrin. I'll write it on the envelope. You don't have to remember the name.
Thank God.
A formal letter of introduction. That's wise.
Not only that, but also I want to suggest that Donald comes back to help protect this town, because I don't want him to go to the front. And I promised his dad I would at least try that. Is something that I share later.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check with that information about his brother being in good hands and protecting him, because Donald right now is gung-ho on protecting his brother.
I'm assuming that's advantage. I'm telling him what he wants to hear. I didn't think it would be that turn.
I think advantage works here.
I rolled a 14.
I agree with everything except for them returning here.
Well, I'm not saying them. I'm saying Donald. But
Donald, yeah. I don't think Owen. Might not be a good idea for him to come back because there may be some bad blood here.
There's another piece of business that I would defer to Grodor or perhaps Mel or maybe even Gabrielle on this issue, but these pages, this grimoire, this remnant, is obviously too dangerous to just leave here. Are we obligated to destroy it, or do we need to take it with us and deliver it to our superiors at the Academy?
Oh, it definitely needs to be looked at closer first.
But if the purpose is summoning demons, I mean...
Its purpose could be protecting yourself from demons. Summoning it might be just part of the protection.
Devils.
They're really different.
Yeah.
Right, devils. Anyway, my point is, I don't want to leave it here in town.
It shouldn't be.
Right.
Let's take it with us for now. If we meet the creature again in our travels, this could be of use. That thing is not dead.
I look towards Guy. Is this acceptable? You don't want this in town, do you?
Merrick Plumbottom clears his throat. He looks very uncomfortable and says, hey, there's still a death to account for. I mean, I understand he's good with magic, but Galvin died. And what do we do about that, Guy?
Can I point out there was nearly 3 deaths? There was Grodor that was pecked to death. To see the pile of blood on the ground over there? And if you want to turn around and look at this wall where there's blood that came from Owen's head as it was smashed up against the wall, and he would have died as well had it not been, well, for us doing the healing. I guarantee you that Owen did not intend to do what he did. He made some bad decisions. Yeah, we understand that. And yes, I do understand that there was a death in town. But Owen wasn't the one who did it. Owen was the one that brought the creature here that did it.
If Owen saves more than the one life, he will have done more than he has ruined. I think he has great potential to save more lives than he would if he were punished.
I'm going to go ahead and say both Alder and Gabrielle make a persuasion check.
Normal?
Yes, right up.
I rolled a 19.
And I rolled a 15. Mine was the setup, and Gabrielle's was the spike.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. You were talking to Merrick, and you noticed still some hesitance in what you were saying, and then Gabrielle started in.
Amira sent us here, and we chose to save him. If he saves more lives, then clearly it was her will.
Merrick nods slowly. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I'll tell Galvin's family, but... And Guy is like, we'll tell them that a devil was plaguing our town in the forest, in the woods, and we just won't mention how it came to be summoned. We'll say that it was a mystery, but we've removed it. It should be enough, Merrick. My decision is final. The boy is leaving with me on the morrow, and we're going to Temerity. Merrick nods his head because the Archon has spoken, and the Archon is the judge.
I understand why you would choose that, but I think... Would it be too much for Owen to accept responsibility, to apologize to these people whose lives he's ruined by his accidents? It's an important lesson. Magic is not to be misused. You must learn what it does before you cast your spell, or you end up with things like this.
I turn around, I look Owen in the eye, and I say, what do you want to do?
What
is your heart telling you is right?
And we all look to Owen, I think.
First of all, Gabrielle, make a persuasion check against Guy.
Absolutely.
To say that he should admit who caused this death.
The truth
of Galvin,
is just as important as our solution to the problem. Only a 12, and no inspiration to spend on it. It is kind of shaky from his perspective. I think it's reasonable that he might not be too convinced by my argument.
I can give my inspiration to Gabrielle.
Mm-hmm. You can. So you believe as well that the boy should own up for his actions?
Yeah,
I think the boy should decide whether or not he should stay or should go.
I mean, if you want to move forward, this is a key element of redemption.
Go ahead and make another roll, Gabrielle.
Improved by 3. I rolled a total of 15 that time.
Which is the target number I had in mind, was 15.
Consider how it would land on your morals for the rest of your life to look that family in the eye and know that they didn't know the truth.
He puts his hand to his chin as if he's pondering your words, then nods slowly and says, the boy will apologize for his actions. For that, I will be sure to do in the morning. But he is coming to Temerity. And then...
And you can argue with the town that the reason he's going to Temerity is to solve the problem that was created.
You're a wise man, Guy.
Grodor. Owen looks you in the eyes and says, I don't want to be afraid anymore.
I pat him on the shoulder and say, in Temerity they will teach you not to be afraid.
Fear is the first thing they remove when you choose to become a hand.
So
I'm proud of you, Owen. You're the most mature 12-year-old I've ever met.
you all walk back through the clearing, through the woods, and back to the Sundaro farm.
On the way back, I'm speaking with Donald. I'm telling him, you did well. That was a scary battle. And you stood shoulder to shoulder with Marduk and I. And you got a nice hit in there, my friend. You have some skill. You have some talent. I think your future could be quite good.
He smiles sheepishly. Thank you.
So don't be impressed with your little brother and think that he's better than you. You have the option to be amazing as well.
He nods and just puts his arm around his brother as they walk back to the farmstead together. They say their goodbyes and make their way inside because it's 2:00 in the morning and the family's been through a lot.
Someone's got to explain this to the dad, not it.
Donald said he would take care of it, actually. He said he's going to explain what happened to Dad and take care of his brother.
Donald.
He seems to like have softened from his initial stance by hearing everyone else talk about the potential for redemption and how he can bring so much good into the world with this nascent ability that he has that is going to be untapped for the good of Amira, both the country and the god. And so they go into the home, and Merrick says that he'll walk you back to the inn because it's past hours and it's locked up for the night. And Guy collects his mace and what arrows remain. And
Guy, your supplies were godsend. Exactly what we needed.
Thanks you, Gabrielle.
For your vigilance. You were a credit to your position.
I'm so glad I could help. I'm so glad that my past deeds as an adventurer bore fruit tonight and sent that hellish being back to where it belonged. I am going to retire to my estate for the night, have a warm shot of brandy, and we'll be on our way in the morning getting little Owen situated in Temerity. And with that, he's off through the mud splotched streets of Cockshire, heading back towards his little estate on the northern end of town. And that leaves you with Merrick.
As we're walking back to the inn, I'm talking to Gabrielle. I think we did all right with those kids. Good job with Donald.
I was a bit more worried than I guess I needed to be. He was not too shabby at all. And here more ready than his father thought he was.
And here I just thought I was helping Owen sleep. Ah, well, it worked out.
You did good as well.
Merrick leads the way to the village center, to the inn. He opens the door with a key to let you guys in. The interior of the inn is completely darkened. He leads you inside, lights a candle, and leads you upstairs to where the rooms are located in the Wind Whistle Inn. You're able to finally doff your armor, maybe grab a quick bite to eat before passing out in your beds for the night.
I actually spend a bit of time first before I pass out on the bed, writing a note that is specifically to the academy, explaining what I think would be beneficial for Donald.
Okay. I think we'll end it there for tonight. We'll pick up next week where your travels continue deeper into the foothills of the Middle Ridge Peaks as you get closer to Iron Sword Pass and your entry into eastern Amira, which will be a first for some of you and old hat for others of you. Thank you for listening tonight. We appreciate everyone who spent the time listening to this podcast. Hope you enjoyed the battle. And thanks to everyone around the table tonight. Appreciate everyone taking the time to not just fight the combat, but also lots of good role-playing occurred as well, and a very tense dilemma there with Owen after the truth came out to what had occurred. An interesting dilemma as far as morals go. So I thought everyone handled that really well and got involved with that, and it was really enjoyable.
I do have a question, Scott, about the Fist of Amira.
Okay.
Thomas and I were talking about what we thought the power of the Fist of Amira are we the equivalent of Jedi? Or what was that one role-playing game where they were Dogs in the Vineyard, where it actually fits kind of well in the fact that you have the power of your religion and you go to a city and you find that there's problems and you try to solve them, but you're the judge and the jury, the prosecutor, you're the RoboCop that has all of those powers. Are we the equivalent of that as the Fist of Amira?
It depends, I would say, for an answer, because each town, each pillar, and each exemplar or exemplars that influence the nature of the town. The Archon is the judge of the town.
Is the exemplar the equivalent of a mayor of a town?
No, the pillar would be the mayor, the person who kind of oversees the management of a town or a city or a village. The exemplars are usually the landowners, the ones who own the land and also have a lot of political authority in the land.
But when you say political, do you also mean religious?
Yes, definitely, because the two are intertwined in Amira.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely the same thing, which hopefully we'll get a chance to see as we're moving into some new territories and some new encounters. The politics and the religion will start to intertwine a little bit more. You're probably like part of the Soul Watch, a city guard, have that kind of authority, or the Soul Guard, which is the army of the nation.
Still beholden to laws?
Still beholden to laws, but if you're in a small place that doesn't have a very strong pillar, or who doesn't have a very strong Archon, which is the judge, who metes out the punishments.
Is the Archon here the exemplar?
You don't know that yet.
Okay.
But in many cases they are. In many smaller locations, they do double duty. Ultimate guilt or innocence is usually decided by the Archon, but your testimony would have very major significance. But if you killed someone that you thought was evil, you do have some of that authority in the sense, I really would highly doubt that in most locations, the Archon would be like, I'm going to throw you in jail because you're Fists of Amira. You have authority. It's just like if a city guard had to kill someone in the line of a robbery, the city guard wouldn't be in trouble, most likely unless he was a wanton murderer. So you do have a lot of authority, but there are structures in place in society to judge. There's structure above you. There's rule of law that you couldn't just go around wantonly murdering people.
Well, no, obviously that's not what I'm suggesting, but you said that we are the equivalent of Soul Guard or
Soul Watch, either one.
Soul Watch. But obviously we're more than that.
Yeah, I'm saying that on its most fundamental level, that's your level of authority. If you choose to go beyond that, not many Archons are going to hold that against you. Does that make sense? There's no real structure of you.
If we were to do some shit in the middle of the capital temerity, then we would probably face an Archon who could be like, why did you do this?
Right. Well, you could have done this much differently, and you might be slapped on the wrists as opposed to incarcerated. But if you're in a smaller town or village and you take the law into your own hands, the Archon is probably going to be like, thanks, I don't have to deal with that, or be awed by your station. It depends on where you're at in the country. If you're in the middle of a teeming city, chances are that Archon that's representing that you get that day as your judge is going to be like, I'm not putting up with this in my city. It's like New York City, you know, like you're not going to get away with as much as you could maybe like someone in the country who doesn't have the same set of laws and structure as there is in a capital city.
I guess I'm
a little bit, but go ahead and ask more if you need a better description.
Yeah, I mean, the Soul Guard or the Soul Watch, they're not restricted to an individual city. Like, we have police that are Cleveland police, and they don't necessarily have jurisdiction in other cities.
The Soul Watch is by town, village, and city. If you noticed, Merrick, he was the head of the Soul Watch, called the Watch Lord of this town. So he is the Watch. The Watch is the local guards, right? The ones who just stay in the city, in the town, in the village. The Guard is the military. The guard they go from place to place. Sometimes they're stationed in cities and guard places like that. But the Soul Guard is what you could think of as like the U.S. Army, whereas the Soul Watch is the Cleveland Police.
So we are the equivalent of the Soul Guard, is that we are nationwide.
Deputized everywhere.
Yes, and yet you still have that ability. Well, yeah, I guess maybe I shouldn't have said both Soul Watch and Soul Guard. Maybe you could just say Soul Guard, since they have a little bit more authority than a Soul Watchman does.
Is it the equivalent of armed forces and then special forces?
I would say yes. Sometimes it's going to dictate, like, again, if you did something really above the board and just really took matters in your hand and 6 people ended up dead in the middle of temerity, you might be called to answer for your actions. But would you be incarcerated? Probably not. Stripped of your medallion? Maybe?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the relationship. For instance, the Soul Guard understands who we are, and they kind of rate us a little higher than they are. So again, the equivalent of regular armed forces and then special forces.
I kind of like your description of special forces. I think in a military sense, it's strong and well thought out.
We're better trained, we're higher trained, we're going to be given the more difficult missions, the more.
Yeah, absolutely. And more leeway to take morality, in this case, what's called Amira's will, which is the same thing as morality in this country. Take her will and do with it as you see fit. There's a lot of laws, but if it's Amira's will that something be done, and you can justify it to an Archon, and some Archons aren't even going to ask you to justify it. For, again, like a smaller town like this, you might not get an Archon that even disputes somebody ending up dead. He might just be like, okay, well, that had to be done, and you guys are the fists of Amira.
Because I think the Soul Guard typically are on a mission with a commanding officer, and then they have a commanding officer because they're part of an army, where we're sent on something that says, go to another nation, do this thing, see you in a few months. So we have a lot more.
Make your own decisions, make freedom, your own morality choices, absolutely a lot more than that. Or you've been given that kind of freedom already, in the sense that just get down there and meet up with this person and then loot this tomb and then come back. And how you do that is completely up to you.
Right.
But you're also finding situations where people need help, or there's just situations evolving in your presence, and you have to decide how you're going to handle that. And a lot of the morality is on your guys' doorstep to determine what does the will of Amira mean to this group of fists of Amira.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that kind of makes sense to me, and it kind of answers my question. I don't know, Thomas or John, if you have any.
No, I asked my questions earlier, got them answered.
There are a lot of different skill sets in our group here.
Oh, yeah.
Are there titles that you know a Fist of Amira's coming in and they got like a special emblem on their little badge, or are they just assumed that they can handle everything?
They're assumed they can handle everything. At least that's my default as I thought of created the organization. It was just a group of adventurers who basically went out and tried to exert Amira's will in the world as they saw it. So if you would like there to be designations,
not necessarily,
or
I was just curious.
Within, we could always do that.
Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued about the fact that we don't have a leader, because even in special forces, you have a leader. You have a commanding officer of some type, and we don't, which is, I'm fine with that.
Well, I just assumed as a DM that someone would step up and take command.
We may eventually get there.
And you may, yeah, exactly. If you think about it, you guys have been Fists of Amira for 4 days. You're going on your 5th now because it's past midnight.
Right. And prior to those 4 days, we were just pupils.
Right. So I guess what I could have done as DM, but I wanted to stay away from that because I wanted it to be more organic, was designate a leader. Like, okay, so Gabrielle, you're in charge. They could have designated that, and it might have made sense in a veracity sort of way. they probably would have named someone as a leader who they thought was the best student or the most well-rounded or the person who blah, blah, blah. But I didn't want to take the agency away from you guys in determining your own future and how you came together as a group and got to know each other. And I wanted that to be part of the story.
You also have to be careful because sometimes
you pick someone who shies away from it.
Yeah. For example, our brother Michael is not necessarily one that if you made him be the leader that he would want to do that.
Right, exactly. That's always dangerous to name the wrong leader. And then I guess in a way that could have added more inter-party friction and conflict, which sometimes is good. But I guess I just wanted it to be something that was more, you guys had the agency to decide who was going to step into the role and who was going to make the final decision when one needs to be made. Up to this point, you've been able to pretty much talk through everything without there being a firm disagreement. It seems like Mike and Michael both don't want any part of the leadership role. Mike's half-orc is definitely someone who defers, which isn't always the case with him. He doesn't always defer, so it's interesting he chose that path. And Michael, like you said, is just someone who prefers not to take the leadership role in most cases. But I think it's up for grabs at this point still if this who's going to maybe it'll just be a committee.
Okay, well, that pretty much answers the question that I asked. Thank you for the information, Scott. And hopefully the listeners will enjoy it too. And I think it would be something that you could share with the audience as well because it helps describe the world a bit. So
It's true.
Absolutely.
At least our place in this world. Thank you for listening to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. If you'd like to send us a question, comment, or feedback, you can reach us in a number of ways, including Twitter at KOTN_podcast or by emailing us at feedback@KOTNpodcast.com. And don't forget the iTunes reviews. We also have a Facebook page which can be found at facebook.com/KOTN.podcast. While on Facebook, you can join like-minded folks at our fan page at facebook.com/groups/KOTN-fan. And lastly, there's our blog at KOTNpodcast.com where there's an Amazon link on the right-hand side. For those of you who'd like a more steady way to help us pay the bills, or if you live outside the U.S., you can help by donating to our Patreon page at patreon.com/KOTN. And please remember to join us next week for more mystery and adventure.
Owen, you all right? And
that was whoa. That was really muddled. I don't know why.
Oh, I'm sorry.
While you're doing that, Grodor runs away.
Make an investigation check, Grodor.
Go over to this screen, hit this button, scroll down. I got an investigation of 13.
A demon was plaguing. Wow, what the fuck? Even I'm doing it. We'll tell him. And
here is the mind killer. It is the little death.
I appreciated Grodor finding that book because that kind of changed the whole thing. Made it a lot clearer what was going on. So good job, Grodor. Good job, all.
Yeah, I'm just glad the kid didn't end up dead. Would have been sad.
That would have been very sad.
And then, in that case, good job, Mel.
Yeah. Cost me a potion.
Yeah, I'm sorry about
It's
that.
about time I get some spell slots, I think.
And I really thought Marduk was going to die.
Oh, hey, that is important.
I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, well, you went below 0. I thought Marduk was going to go down hard.
When I first heard him say 23, that's my hit points, and I have an ability that if I am dropped to 0, I go back up to 1, that relentless endurance, and I'm like, oh, great. All right, I'm going to...
I have 1.
I have 1 hit point, but...
Against the devil, an infernal being.
I did what I wanted to do. I wanted to draw his attention and take the...
Which I appreciate, because his hit, which was a minor hit on my part, he had like 3 attacks. He hit me with 1.
Right.
Took half my hit points.
Yeah.
In a blink of an eye, I was down to half.
Yeah, that battle could have turned out much differently.
It came very close. I mean, I hit solidly and had good damage rolls.
You did.
You know,
you did a lot of damage to the demon devil. There weren't a lot of crits, but you guys were rolling high on your damage dice.
Right. I was happy to get a hit in and then keep the birds off of everybody else and on me.
Even though they might have picked you to death, which I was going to be really bummed out. I'm like, man, if I roll a die 6 the next turn, if Gabrielle hadn't gotten to you, and I rolled a die 6 the next turn and rolled a 6, then you would have been at 15.
Yeah.
And,
I had one more healing spell that I could do at a distance, but it was like,
gotcha.
Who do I do it to? Owen to save his life, or Grodor to bring him back above 0, or Marduk who's getting the shit kicked out of him on the other side of me, or...
Yeah, that's why a healing spell left. I was going to drop on Marduk if he needed it.
Right, I saw you running over to Grodor, so I'm like, okay.
So
and I was arranged to intercept for
Paladin's got that, and then Mel ran around and got the kid with the potion. I'm like, oh, that's right, potion, that's good.
I had some damage reduction to drop around as well with my reaction that turn. Not that it ever came to it. I'm really good at being 5 feet directly behind the active combat because I can hit and help from there.
Oh, with the polearm?
Yeah. I'm designed to be like one rank behind everyone else.
Yeah, I'm designed to be like a couple ranks behind.
You're literally using everybody as a meat shield?
I can also be a meat shield, but I wanted to be able to act if we got too many people in melee.
I had to look up what was the enemy of ravens, because
it was good.
I didn't know, although Thomas and I walking the other day.
I was going to say, that hawk didn't seem to be in charge.
Nope, that hawk was getting picked on by 5 different ravens. It would like fly from telephone pole to telephone pole, and anytime it moved in the air, all 5 of these ravens would come coming down at it.
Thaumaturgy, though, was so loud, it sounded like there was like a giant hawk.
I was actually going to yell for Brother Byron to do it because
Francis.
Yeah, Brother Byron can do the same spell. I was going to call on him to do it, but it was afterwards, and I just added it for flavor. Other possible titles for this episode that were available for voting on the Facebook fan page were: Fear is the first thing that they choose to remove when you become a hand. Devils equal your enemy. Mine was the setup. Gabrielle's was the spike. Not it. It cost me a potion. The battlefield falls quiet. And he broke the law of the land.